Hello everyone, welcome to BAJIRAO IAS Academy, the Hindu News Analysis. Today is 16th August 2025 and today we have some important topics for the discussion from the Hindu newspaper. So one by one, we'll be discussing all these topics in a very detailed and in-depth manner, and in fact this discussion will be helpful for your exam preparation. So without any further delay, let's get into the discussion and let's understand these topics in a detailed manner. So the first topic with which we are going to start this session is about the decline of Naxalism in India. Now, in fact, when we talk about the Naxal issue, which we famously call as left-wing extremism, now it is being said that the left-wing extremism has been on a decline, right? Particularly because of several operations that are being undertaken by the Union Home Ministry. And in India, there is a corridor called Red Corridor. And in fact, this Red Corridor is famously known for the left-wing extremism, right? So Red Corridor is famously known for the left-wing extremism. And if I say the Red Corridor, it is mostly concentrated in the states of Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Odisha, Chhattisgarh and Andhra Pradesh, right, and even parts of Telangana, and these are the states where this Red Corridor is concentrated. However, because of number of initiatives that are being undertaken by the union government, whether it is Operation Samadhan or Operation Kagar, the number of Naxal insurgency has been declining. The left-wing extremism and its concentration has been rapidly declining. So therefore, in this context, we'll be understanding what are the major factors which have contributed for the decline of the left-wing extremism or Naxalism, and what are the other steps that we need to take so that we can completely eliminate or eradicate Naxalism. So understand that we all knew that the former Prime Minister of India, Dr. Manmohan Singh, he referred left-wing extremism is the most dangerous internal security threat that India has been facing. So therefore, in this context, we'll be understanding what are the factors which have contributed to the decline of the left-wing extremism or Naxalism, if I say, and what are the other factors that we need to take into consideration to completely eliminate or eradicate the left-wing extremism in India. So let's understand India's scenario of the left-wing extremism or insurgency. Now, if we talk about India's scenario, so contrary to the global trends, what we have been observing at the global level, India has been witnessing a decline in ideologically oriented terrorism, and left-wing extremism is also an ideologically oriented terrorism or a violence against the state. So therefore, there is a decline in ideologically oriented terrorism in India, right? So you just have to remember this. As I have already told you that there are number of operations that are being undertaken to eliminate this left-wing extremism, and they are giving good results. So therefore, there is a decline in ideologically oriented terrorism in India. However, the Naxalite and Maoist movement, so they are being in the downward trajectory as well, right? So if I say that there's a decline in ideologically oriented terrorism, and in fact there is a decline in Naxalite or Maoist movement in India as well. However, the Union Home Minister has indicated that Naxalism may end by mid-2026, right? Because whatever operations are being undertaken, they are giving good results. They are being successful in eliminating or eradicating the Naxal movement. So therefore, he said that the Naxalism may end by mid-2026 for the first time, officially predicting its demise by Union Home Minister. Now let's understand the rise and fall of Naxalism as well, because we need to have a brief background about the Naxalism as well. Now initially, when we talk about the Naxalism or left-wing extremism, so this movement was inspired by the revolutionary zeal that was started in 1960s and 70s in India. And in fact, this revolutionary zeal that was started in 1960s, it has attracted many students, intellectuals and youth. So they were easily attracted towards the revolutionary movement. And in fact, most famous leaders of this revolutionary movement, including Charu Majumdar, Kanu Sanyal, Satyanarayan Singh and Kondapalli Sitaramaya, So they were the key leaders of this left-wing extremist movement that has started emerging in 1960s and 70s. And in fact, this left-wing extremism or Naxalite movement was once hailed as a movement of the oppressed sections, because it is very often branded as a movement of the oppressed, marginalized sections of the society. And in fact, this was a movement against the state which is oppressing the people. So therefore it was viewed as a movement of oppressed people, tribals and urban poor. So therefore, over a period of time, what happened was this Naxal movement was degenerated into a mindless violence, because they took up arms and they started violent activities, or they started attacking the state or the security forces, and in some cases the normal people also. So therefore it becomes a mindless violence from a movement of oppressed classes. And in fact, this revolutionary fervor, so that is a key or root of this left-wing extremism. So it has started evaporated as the movement split into the regional factions, right? So the left-wing extremist movement or the Naxal movement, because of the differences that were growing within that particular group, what happened was it split into the number of regional factors, so thereby it lost its all India character as well, right? So earlier it is used to have a all India character, but over a period of time, because of the splits that are taking place, what happened was it has lost this all India character, and this revolutionary fervor also started evaporating along with it. Now let's understand the campaign against the Naxalism that the government has started and how it has been giving or giving sustainable results. Now in fact, if we talk about the campaign against Naxalism, now under the directions of Union Home Minister, so there is a sustained nationwide offensive, and that was launched against the Naxalite group. So if I talk about such a sustained nationwide offensive, for example, Operation Kagar, right? So Operation Kagar, and along with Operation Kagar and even Operation Samadhan also. So these are the operations which are giving sustained results over a period of time, and that led to the decline of Naxalism or left-wing extremist movement. And in fact, thousands of militants, they are reported killed in several encounters that took place in recent times as well. And therefore, these sustained measures along with the encounters have led to the decline of left-wing extremist movement or Naxalite movement. And apart from that, there is a reduced supply of the forces to the left-wing extremists or Naxalites from the tribals as well, because of the developmental activities that are being carried out in number of tribal belts. So particularly these areas where we call it as a red corridor. And one such program that the government has launched to focus on development is aspirational districts program. So 112 districts have been selected for the aspirational districts program, and a comprehensive set of activities, particularly the developmental activities, are carried out in these districts, right? So therefore, such developmental programs launched in these areas have been giving good results in terms of reducing the number of tribals joining the left-wing extremist movement. And in fact, the Communist Party of India, Maoist, so in fact it has admitted that 357 Naxalites killed in 2024 alone, with over one third being the women cadres. So therefore, these operations that are being launched by the government have led to the killing of left-wing extremist forces, and that over a period of time led to the decline of the left-wing extremist concentration, right? So let's understand the strategic approach that is followed in India in order to deal with the Naxalism or left-wing extremism. And in fact, the overall objective is to prevent these revolutionary groups, however ideological, from disturbing the established democratic order. Now we all knew that India, we have an established democratic order. We are a democratic state, a largest democracy. However, the left-wing extremist movement or Naxal movement aimed at destabilizing the state or overthrowing the democratically elected government. So therefore, the objective is to ensure or prevent these revolutionary groups and eradicate the left-wing extremism as soon as possible as well. So in fact, in fact, the recognition that early Naxalites were driven by the revolutionary zeal and the democratic ideals. And over a period of time, what happened was ideology degenerated into indiscriminate usage of violence, right? So there is an indiscriminate usage of violence by the later Naxalites, and that led to the suppression of this Naxalite movement by the government. And in fact, they used to justify their violence on ideological basis. So therefore, such violent activities are a threat, a big threat to India's internal security, as it was referred to by the former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh. So therefore, there is a need to deal with the left-wing extremist problem, with the force. So because of this reason, in order to address this problem, Operation Kagar has been launched and Operation Samadhan has also been launched. So Operation Samadhan is a comprehensive framework that could address not just left-wing extremism but also development in the areas where the left-wing extremism is heavily concentrated, right? So these are the programs, and apart from that, the rehabilitation program has also been launched by the government, so that rehabilitates those Naxalites who are willing to, or those who are ready to leave the left-wing extremist movement, and they are ready to be part of the normal life. So therefore, such programs have been launched in order to reduce or to eliminate the left-wing extremist movement. So let's understand what exactly is Operation Samadhan. So Operation Samadhan, as I have already told you, that this is a comprehensive framework that not just addresses the violence caused by the Naxalite cadres, but it also looks into the security and the development of the areas where the left-wing extremism is heavily concentrated. Now, in Samadhan, S stands for smart policing and leadership, A stands for aggressive strategy, M stands for motivation and training, actionable intelligence, a dashboard for the development and key performance indicators in those areas where Naxalism is heavily prevalent. H stands for harnessing technology for the development and security, and A stands for action plan for each theater, and N stands for no access to financing of this Naxalite movement, right? So this is the Operation Samadhan that the Union Home Ministry has launched to deal with the Naxalism. So however, let's understand the root causes of extremism or the Naxalite movement. So if we talk about the root causes of Naxalite movement, so unemployment is a problem, right? Because of the unemployment, youth are willing or ready to join the left-wing extremist movement. And apart from that, there's a gender gap. Gender gap is also another major reason. And Jal Jangal Jameen programs such campaigns which were run previously that inspired, motivated youth to be part of these left-wing extremist movement. And there's a lack of infrastructure, lack of development, lack of connectivity, and the bureaucratic apathy as well, right? So bureaucratic apathy, when I say about this, there's a lack of adequate interest, adequate focus of the bureaucracy on these developmental indicators in the red corridor area. So if bureaucracy is adequately focused on these areas, then there is a probability that the youth will not join the left-wing extremist movement. So there's a bureaucratic apathy which is also existing, and lack of education and lack of healthcare infrastructure, and corruption also another major factor that has led to the youth, particularly the tribal youth, joining the Naxalite movement, and they are pursuing a revenge against the government because of the corruption and because of the human rights violations also. And poverty is also another major problem. So there are no major programs or the initiatives which focuses on poverty in those tribal belts or red corridor areas. So that has been further fueling the left-wing extremist movement, and social exclusion of some people and poor health facilities. So all these factors are the major contributors or the root causes of the rise of left-wing extremism or the Naxalism, right? So I hope you have understood the root causes of extremism. Now let's understand another major important topic, which is yesterday, August 15, India's Independence Day. So on India's Independence Day, Prime Minister gave a historic speech. In this historic speech, Prime Minister Narendra Modi called that India will be having an indigenous air defense system by the year 2035. So India is going to build an indigenous air defense system by 2035. Let's understand the context. So what is its indigenous air defense system and how it is going to benefit India? Now, in fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, on his Independence Day address, so he announced the launch of Sudarshan Chakra. So this indigenous air defense system is called as Sudarshan Chakra. So therefore he announced the launch of Sudarshan Chakra, which is India's first indigenous air defense system, and that we are going to have this indigenous air defense system by the year 2035, right? So by the year 2035 India is going to build its indigenous air defense system, which is being called as Sudarshan Chakra. And in fact, this mission aims to provide a comprehensive security cover to both strategic and civilian areas as well, right? So the need for Sudarshan Chakra or indigenous air defense system was felt during Operation Sindoor, when India attacked the terrorist camps in Pakistan as part of this operation. However, Pakistan even retaliated by sending drones to Indian territory, inflicting major damages to the civilian areas. So therefore there is a need to have such an indigenous air defense system so that we can protect our strategic and civilian areas well in advance. So now let's understand government's vision for national security through Sudarshan Chakra and what are its uses and how it is how it is going to help the civilian and strategic areas in India. Now, in fact, if we talk about the Sudarshan Chakra, so this mission will act as a security shield, right? So you can see here how it is going to ensure a shield, so which is being called as a security shield, and it is a security shield for important areas and strategic infrastructure such as hospitals, railway stations and other strategic locations, and which is being called as a Sudarshan Chakra. So this announcement of Prime Minister Narendra Modi is also based or grounded on recent comments by Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff Asif Munir. So he said that they are going to attack key infrastructure in India. So therefore the need is felt to protect important strategic and civilian areas such as hospitals, railway stations and other strategic locations through the indigenous defense system called as Sudarshan Chakra. And by 2035 every citizen should feel safe under this advanced technological protection system. And in fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also stressed that this self-reliance, which is also called as Atmanirbharta, is essential because the national security cannot rest on the foreign dependence. So we can no longer depend on the foreign dependence. So when I say foreign dependence, for example, if we have S-400 missile defense systems, but we no longer depend on S-400 missile defense systems and other missile defense systems that we have procured from countries like Israel. So therefore there is a need for us to build our own indigenous missile defense systems, right? So if I say an indigenous missile defense system, so S-400 will not be part of it because S-400 is a missile defense system that has been procured from Russia. So therefore we are going to build our own missile defense system by the year 2035 to protect our civilian and strategic areas. And in fact, the plan to have Sudarshan Chakra or indigenous missile defense system is to expand, strengthen and further modernize the national security shield over the next decade. And in fact, the mission also draws inspiration from Lord Krishna's mythological shield, the Sudarshan Chakra. And let's understand the recent achievements and strategic context in this arena, right? So India currently deploys around 3 S-400 missile defense systems, right? So as I've already told you that these missile defense systems are purchased from Russia. So currently India deploys 3 S-400 missile defense systems. They successfully neutralized Pakistani drones and missiles as well during the Operation Sindoor that was launched in May 7th, 2025. And in fact, the integrated air command and control systems, so they ensured air superiority over the Pakistan as well. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi, during his speech at Red Fort, hailed Operation Sindoor as a proof of India's strategic autonomy, and he also called for further strengthening made in India defense technology as well. And in fact, this indigenous defense system that India is going to have by the year 2035 will also be part of an indigenous defense technology. And in fact, Pakistan has very often committing nuclear blackmail of India. However, India is rejecting the nuclear blackmail and foreign terms, showcasing decisive military capability. Now, when I say nuclear blackmail, what exactly is a nuclear blackmail? Now, understand, Pakistan is a nuclear weapon state and India is also a nuclear weapon state. But Pakistan is very often threatening India with the nuclear weapons, which is called as the nuclear blackmail. So, India is rejecting the nuclear blackmail of Pakistan, and it shows a decisive military capability of India to retaliate Pakistan. And in fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also criticized the Indus Water Treaty as unjust, unfair treaty, because 80% of the waters under the Indus Water Treaty are being allocated for the Pakistan and just 20% of the waters are being allocated for India. So therefore, Prime Minister Narendra Modi called Indus Water Treaty as unjust, and he also reaffirmed that India will no longer compromise on its national interests. So therefore, there is a need to review the Indus Water Treaty, allocating more waters to India or making it more fair and just. And he also urged youth and innovators to develop the indigenous jet engines, because there is a need to develop our own jet engines. We can no longer dependent on other countries for our jets, right? So, or aircrafts. So therefore, he also cited India's success with respect to COVID-19 vaccines and UPI as a proof of capability as well, right? So in fact, so if we talk about the key defense and security and legal frameworks, so let's understand the existing key defense, security and legal frameworks. So integrated air command and control system. So it is a secure automated network that actually integrates the existing radars, sensors and other communication systems so that they can ensure a real-time monitoring of the entire airspace. So therefore, this is being called as the integrated air command and control system. And as we already knew that India purchased S-400 missile defense systems from Russia. So they are a long range surface to air missile system, and in fact they are also capable of intercepting aircrafts, drones, ballistic missiles up to 400 kilometers away. And in fact, during Operation Sindoor, S-400 missile defense systems have proved their credibility. And in fact, so for the success of Operation Sindoor, S-400 missile defense systems, they have played a very important role. And Transplantation of Human Organs Tissues Act of 1994, and this actually regulates the organ donation. This is not part of it, right? So apart from that, the Operation Sindoor 2024, and in fact it is a first major combat showcasing made in India weapon systems in neutralizing the cross-border threats as well. So if we talk about the Sudarshan Chakra, which is India's next generation defense shield, right? So by 2035, India is going to build its own indigenous air defense system, so that is going to protect its key civilian and strategic infrastructure, including hospitals, railway stations and other key infrastructure, right? So in fact, it has been inspired by Lord Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra. This indigenous weapon system will neutralize the enemy attacks, and it also strikes back with a greater force. Secondly, it predicts the future threats with advanced artificial intelligence led strategy, and it also deliver precision targeted action and return safely as well, right? So this is what is Sudarshan Chakra or indigenous defense system. And next, there's another very important article written by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the Indian Express newspaper. So he is talking about the Atmanirbharata or self-reliance to the Vikasit Bharat vision by the year 2047. So we all knew that India wanted to become a developed country, a Vikasit Bharat by the year 2047. So therefore, let's understand this Vikasit Bharat vision and how India is going to become a developed country by the year 2047. So what is the context? So the context is that on August 15, 2024, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the nation from the Red Fort, and it is a conventional practice, and Prime Ministers of India regularly do give such addresses from the Red Fort. And in fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi in his address during Independence Day, so he emphasized on self-reliance, which is also called as Atmanirbharata. So India rely or depend on its own rather than depending on other countries. For for example, if I tell you some example, 85% of our oil is dependent or imported from other countries. So we still dependent on for the defense equipment, or we have been importing the missile defense systems. So therefore we should not depend on other countries for our needs, rather we should depend on the Indian people also, achieving self-reliance, atmanirbharata, right? So we should not depend on others for our needs, rather we should look ourselves for our needs, which is called as the atmanirbharata or self-reliance. And in fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi emphasized that this self-reliance is a key foundation for building Viksit Bharat by the year 2047, or developed country by the year 2047. And in fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's speech specifically focused on defense preparedness, energy independence, technological leadership, and vocal for local, right? Because they are being called as guiding mantras for the next 25 years, right? So these are the key areas that we need to emphasize because they are the foundation of self-reliance, right? So whether energy independence, so if I say energy independence, as I already told you that 85% of the crude oil that we have been importing from other countries, and technological leadership, so we should have our own indigenous technology so that we will not depend on other people. And vocal for local is also another important term, because this is in the context of 50% of the tariffs imposed by US President Donald Trump on Indian goods, and the defense preparedness as well, because we have been importing the defense equipment from Russia, US, Israel, France. So therefore we should depend on ourselves, so we should develop indigenous defense technologies, right? So let's understand the Atmanirbhar Bharat, a roadmap, a detailed roadmap. So there are 5 pillars of self-reliant India. So what are those 5 pillars of self-reliant India? So economy. So if we talk about the economy, quantum jumps, not the incremental changes, particularly achieving a growth rate of 8% per annum, and also becoming the 3rd largest economy very soon. And apart from achieving 3rd largest economy, and India's overall GDP would be more than $5 trillion US dollars. So achieving more than $5 trillion US dollars of India's GDP over a period of time. So we need to have a quantum jumps. And apart from that, we should also focus on infrastructure. So infrastructure is also another very important area, right? So infrastructure is one that represents the modern India. And a system, when we talk about system, which is a technology driven system, and the demography, we all knew that we have a rich demography and huge working age population as well. So therefore a vibrant demography of the largest democracy. And apart from that, demand, full utilization of power of demand and supply as well. So all these factors are considered as a 5 pillars of the self-reliant India or Atmanirbhar Bharat, right? So bold reforms are the need of the hour, such as supply chain reforms in agriculture, regional taxation systems, simple and clear laws, and capable human resources, and strong financial system. So these are some bold reforms that are needed to translate this Atmanirbharta self-reliance into Viksit Bharat by the year 2047, right? So let's understand the importance of Atmanirbharta or self-reliance, and before going into the sectors that are being emphasized as part of Atmanirbharta. Now self-reliance, so when I say self-reliance, it's not just about the imports and exports, but it's about the country's ability, right? So developing overall country's ability, which is being called as Atmanirbharata. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi also stressed that the dependency reduces freedom as well. For example, if we are depending on a defense equipment, imagine that if we are dependent on, we wanted to procure the 5th generation fighter aircraft, right? So if we procure this 5th generation fighter aircraft from US will impose certain conditions on the use of such fighter jets. So we cannot use those fighter jets for our advantage, for our need. So therefore it reduces the freedom when we depend on other countries for the technology, for other things. So it actually reduces our freedom. Therefore we need to be self-reliant, right? So self-reliance further enhances the national confidence as well. And in fact, the success of Operation Sindoor that was launched after the Pahalgam terror attack, where India achieved tremendous success in Operation Sindoor, has showcased how India's indigenous defense capacity ensured a swift retaliation against the cross-border terrorism as well. Now there are certain sectors which are being emphasized as part of self-reliant India. They are including defense manufacturing, energy security, particularly solar energy, hydro energy, nuclear energy, and MSMEs and local industries. So these are also another important areas, and semiconductor and technology driven growth, right? So these are some sectors which are being emphasized as part of the self-reliant India or Atmanirbhar Bharat. So that is going to pave the way for achieving the goal of developed country by the year 2047. And in fact, the government of India has also launched key government missions over a period of time as part of Atmanirbhar Bharat. They are including the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan 2020. So it talks about 20 lakh crore package for self-reliance, and Make in India 2014. So it boosts manufacturing and foreign direct investment. National Solar Mission 2010. So it talks about the renewable energy expansion. National Hydrogen Mission 2021. So green fuel initiative. Defense procurement procedure 2016 and to 2020. So it talks about the indigenous procurement of defense. And semiconductor mission has been launched in 2021. So it is a $10 billion package for the chip industry, and we would like to have a chip manufacturing base in India like other countries such as Japan, US, China and Taiwan. So therefore we should have such a mission with a good amount of allocations to have a strong base in India as well. And Article 19 talks about the freedom, right to freedom, and Article 21 right to life, and Article 301 also. So they all essentially talk about the economic freedom and self-reliance in India. And 5-year plans were previously launched, and this 5-year plans were part of the Planning Commission, but Planning Commission was replaced by Niti Aayog. So they emphasized on frameworks for industrial and economic growth over the period of time right from India's independence. Now there are certain challenges, and it is the time that we need to look into these challenges, and we should proactively act against all these key challenges. And firstly, despite achieving progress on number of indicators, so India still imports a large amount of oil and gas from other countries such as Russia, Middle East and African countries, and we are also looking for the avenues to import the oil and gas from US and South America as well. So therefore, as I've already told you, 85% of the crude oil that we have been importing from other countries, it also reduces India's freedom, right? So secondly, the defense sector gaps which are being existing, because the indigenous production is growing, but we are still dependent on imports for our critical technology. So therefore, what we need to do, we should further increase our indigenous production. There should be major allocations. There should be a need to focus on developing new technologies that will help indigenize India's defense sector. And apart from that, there's a huge delay in adopting semiconductors and artificial intelligence based innovations, and this has been hampering the global competitiveness as well. And apart from that, there are many small industries, they lack access to finance, global supply chains and even the advanced technology as well, right? So for example, if I say a small industries, micro, small and medium enterprises, so these micro, small and medium enterprises are lacking access to the finance and technology. So therefore we should understand the importance of MSMEs, because they are contributing to around 30% of India's GDP and 30% of employment opportunities and 30% of India's exports as well, right? So around this number. So therefore we need to understand the critical role that are being played by the MSMEs. And there are certain demographic issues as well, such as illegal migration, uneven population growth, a pressure on border states. So all these factors further threaten the social harmony and the national security as well. So even we should also talk about the climate commitments, such as the balancing rapid industrialization with Paris Agreement goals, and in fact focusing on reducing greenhouse gas emissions is also one of the key target. So therefore India has established International Solar Alliance so that we can promote the renewable energy technologies and even wind energy. So all these factors would help decarbonize our industry. And the societal mindset, because people often prefer the foreign brands over the local products, and it has been slowing the vocal for local. And poor policy implementation at the ground level. In fact, several ambitious policies have been launched by the government, but the ground level implementation of those programs is very, very poor in India. So therefore all these factors need to be looked into to translate the Atmanirbhar Bharat into the vision of vision of Viksit Bharat by the year 2047, or developed country by the year 2047. Right, so that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. So please subscribe our YouTube channel and